Hello and welcome to the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. My name is Issachar Bey. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to our teaching for today. If this is your first time listening in to us, we want to welcome you and tell you thank you for tuning in. Please let us know what city, what state, what country you are listening in from. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. And if this lecture, if this teaching or any one of our teachings or anything on our platform has been beneficial to you in any way, we ask that you hit that share button, grab the link and text it and email it to your friends, your family, your loved ones, that somebody's life might be changed by the information that they receive. And so we are forever grateful for your commitment, for your consistency, and for being committed to us. And we want to thank you. Also, if you haven't done so already, we are in a new series, The 100 Secrets to Mastering the Game of Life. You can click the link and get the book directly from Amazon.com. It is one of the first books that I put out, and we're going to be working with this for the weeks to come. I believe that this will definitely put us in a position to win and to be able to have some tools that we can use as we begin to manifest and continue manifesting our dreams and goals as we go through the remainder of this year into stepping into greatness and to also becoming a better version of ourselves. And so I want to thank all of you. What you can also do is go ahead and get in a quiet position as we get ready to enter into our spiritual mind treatment. As you get in a quiet position, we like to be in a quiet place to quiet our thoughts, to quiet our mind, to quiet our spirit, and just be at a place where we can hear and we begin to tap in to be centered as we begin to hear this teaching. Why? Because we don't want to miss anything. And sometimes when you're centered and you're in a quiet position, you can hear things in a certain way that will begin to elevate you and lift you and begin to increase your life in a great way. And so we are forever grateful for all of you who have been committed and who have continued to work with us. As you close your eyes, I want you to go ahead and take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Once again, inhale and exhale. Once again, inhale and exhale. I recognize one divine power, one infinite presence, one sacred intelligence, and it is love, it is light, it is life, it is God. This power flows through me, breathes through me, and lives as me. I am not separate from it. I am an individualized expression of the eternal. And so I speak this word over my life and the life of every listener. I now forgive. I forgive all things, all people, all moments that have ever pierced my peace. I forgive myself for every weight I carried that was never mine to bear. I no longer wait for an apology to unlock my peace. I am the key. I choose freedom over resentment, expansion over restriction, liberation over limitation. I now unshackle the prisoner within me. I speak to the locked places in my heart, and I say, open, be made whole, be made new. I declare that forgiveness is not a weakness, it is the greatest act of power. I am no longer enslaved to what happened. I am empowered by what I've learned. I release, I rise, and I reign. And so it is, and so it is. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to our lecture for today. I want to, as I said before, we're continuing out of our book, The 100 Secrets to Mastering the Game of Life. As I said before, you can click the link and grab it from Amazon. Today, we're dealing with a secret that states this: to forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover the prisoner was you. I'm going to say that again. We're coming out of our book, 100 Secrets to Mastering the Game of Life. We're dealing with a secret today that this is the secret we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that that prisoner was, in fact, you. The prisoner within. And when you understand that, you begin to understand that when you don't forgive, you realize that forgiveness is setting the prisoner free, ladies and gentlemen. But then you realize that the prisoner was you. Well, what do you mean that the prisoner was me? I want to look at this from a different perspective. The prisoner within, identifying the invisible cell. The invisible cell. How many people know that right now you're listening to me right now, and there's some people that you haven't forgiven yet? And you're holding a grudge against these people, not realizing that you think that you're holding this grudge against them, and you have them imprisoned by your not forgiving them. But in reality, you have imprisoned yourself. The invisible cell will be considered emotional bondage. How unforgiveness anchors you to your past timeline. You're still holding on to a grudge of something that somebody did to you years ago, something that they did in the past, yesterday, yesteryear. And so you want to move forward. You want to go forward in life. You want to elevate and manifest and move on, but you're still holding this grudge against somebody. And that grudge now has become the anchor that's keeping you from going forward. Some of you don't understand why everything that you're trying to manifest, everything that you're trying to get into fruition, it just seems like it's not moving. Have you forgiven everybody that you need to forgive? Have you let it go? Resentment stifles spiritual power. Because when you don't forgive and you hold that grudge against somebody, you think that you're imprisoning them and that you're not forgiving them is hurting them. That resentment that you have within you actually is hurting you. And when you have that resentment within you, ladies and gentlemen, hear me, hear this. You are now connecting yourself between sickness and bitterness. And what sickness and bitterness does is it allows you not to have ease. And it now brings you into a place of dis-ease. And so you have to be very careful. Let me explain to you this, and I'm not saying that this is what happened, but let me say this. Our beloved brother and friend, who I believe is one of the greatest football players to ever play the game, is Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders has always been a very confident. Some people think he's arrogant. He's, conceited. I just think that he's very confident in himself. He's always been like that. But I've also noticed throughout his life that he was very angry. And he had a lot of issues and different things internally that he never dealt with. We just found out this week that he had the bladder cancer of the bladder, and he got the bladder removed, and they put a new bladder in. But when you look at what the bladder means metaphysically, and when there's issues with the bladder, it comes and it deals with inner anger, not being able to release the anger, not being able to let things go. Now, I'm not saying that all of this is compiling into what happened, but I am letting you know that when you have these, what I call diseases, or when you have these medical issues that take place in your body, understand that by you holding on to things, carrying things that you shouldn't be carrying, holding on to stuff that happened to you when you was a baby and 5 and 6 years old, and you were in your 40s and 50s and 60s, and you still holding on to stuff, and you're still holding on and having that resentment, that bitterness, and you got to think about it. It keeps building on because you're holding on to it. You have to locate the cell, your invisible cell, ladies and gentlemen, that cell that you have put yourself in by not forgiving, by not allowing yourself to forgive, by not allowing yourself to move on. The ego gives us an illusion. It lets us think that unforgiveness is a shield. And then trauma-based identifies as the fear of letting go. You have to be able to let go and begin to look at the trauma-based identities, right? The fear of letting go, of letting things go, because if you think that if I let this go, that this person gets off, but the you holding on to it doesn't do anything to the person. It only does something to you. So now you've imprisonated yourself because you've been holding on to what this person did to you, to what this person said about you, to what this person did, and you have to let it go. You have to let it go. You can't uh, 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 be in a position to hold on to that thing, because by you holding on to it, it does you more harm than anybody else. And we can't confuse justice with bitterness. We can't be bitter and believe that that's justice because we're being bitter towards this person, or we're holding a grudge, resentment. We are not talking to this person. We're not engaging with this person. We're doing everything out of our way to not be nowhere compared to this person. But you want the person to know that you're in this position of bitterness, that you're in this place of resentment based on what they did. And I'm not saying that it didn't hurt what they did. I'm not saying that it didn't cause great pain, great mischief, maybe deception. Many things probably have taken place to what the person did to you. But I've always said this, ladies and gentlemen, what does not kill you will only make you stronger. What does not kill you will only make you stronger. Only the strong survive, ladies and gentlemen. Not the brightest, not the fattest, not the fastest, not the wisest. Only the strong. And you know how you become strong, ladies and gentlemen? You become strong by going through. A person in the gym will get strong. How? By lifting weights. They begin to lift weights, and those weights get lighter, and then they put heavier weights in. Guess what? I used to run 30 minutes. Now I run an hour. Now I run an hour and a half. Now I run 2 hours. Why? Because you're getting stronger by the things that you have to deal with, the weights that you have to lift, and so forth. Same thing in life, ladies and gentlemen. Only the strong survive. Not physically strong, but mentally strong. I believe when we're going through this, and some of you would say, well, how could you forgive this person? Do you know what they did to me? They did this to me, and they did this to my family, they did this to us, and we lost everything, and I understand all of that. But if you're saying that to me, I want to go back to this. What does not kill you will only make you stronger. If you're telling me that, that means you're still here, you're still alive, you're still well. Number two, I think that we need to have a mental rehearsal so that we can re-script the pain. We can some kind of a way let go of this pain, let go of this animosity, let go of all of these things that we're holding on to so that we can let them go and release them. Some say, well, I thought if I let it go, they win. No, they don't win. But if you hold on to it, you lose. Because to be honest, whether you let it go or hold on to it, it does nothing to them by you holding on to it. But when you let it, but by holding on to it, you lose. Because now you imprison yourself. But when you let it go, you actually win because you let it go. You realize that such is life. I'm not going to hold on to that. I'm not going to walk around with that animosity. I don't want to carry that burden. I don't want to carry that resentment. I don't want to carry that negativity, that bitterness. I don't want to carry that around in me for this particular situation, for this particular person. And so when you let it go, it feels like a weight is off your shoulder. It feels like maybe 50 to 100 pounds was taken off of you, and you feel so much lighter. Why? Because you were carrying that weight. You were carrying that weight. You need to begin to, what I would do, this is what I would do. This is a exercise that I believe works if you want to work with it. But get a piece of paper and begin to write down the things that this person did that hurt your feelings, that hurt you, that put you in the place that you're in. This person, everything that you felt that was connected to you that it hurt, your family, your friends, or whoever. And I want you to write down how you felt about it. I want to write down your emotional feels, that you were embarrassed, that you were hurt, everything that it did to you from a psychological point of view, from a physical point of view, from a mental point of view, and write it down. And then I want you to take that paper and fold it. I want you to rip that paper up in pieces and throw it in the garbage. Release it and let it go. Release it and let it go. Forgiveness is tough, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because we believe that if we let it go, they win. We believe that if we let it go, it makes us look weak. We believe if we let it go, it means that we don't care and that we are okay about the situation that took place. None of that is true, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't mean that at all. What happens is by me not forgiving, I've put myself in prison. I've imprisonated myself, and for so many years, I've been trying to move forward and do different things. And I realized that in order for me to go forward in life, I need to let this go. I have to let this go because I need to remove myself out of this prison so that I can flourish and become the best version of myself. And you'll be surprised at how many people are listening right now that'll tell you, I've been holding on to this for 20 years and 30 years. Some of you have been holding on to stuff so long, the person that you have the problem against or that you don't want to forgive is already gone. They're not even alive anymore, and you're still holding on to it. When we talk about forgiveness, I want to talk about the law of reflection. I say this before. You meet no one in this world but you. Everybody in your life is you pushed out. I'll say that again. Everyone in your life is you pushed out. It may take you a minute to really understand what I'm saying. I'm saying on a layman's terms that everybody in your life, your friends, your family, everybody in your life is you. There's a part of you that's in each one of those people. That's why they're connected to you. And if you're seeing things that you don't like what you're seeing, you need to go within and make a change. And so it goes back to relationships. A lot of you in relationships and you are seeing things in your spouse or in your partner that you don't like, things that really agitate you, things that really get on your nerves, things that really get under your skin. You need to address that. Why? Because you don't realize that your partner, your spouse is a mirror, is you pushed out. And you don't change it by going to them, you change it by going within. To say, why does this person irritate me? What is it about me that's allowing this person to irritate me that this is coming out? Same thing about the forgiveness. You also got to look at how your judgment reveals your inner wounds. Everybody has inner wounds. We all have been wounded in life. I often say that your wounds, we must learn how to turn our wounds into wisdom. Turn our wounds into wisdom. I would love to hear the stories of some of you. If you can email us, let us know about your forgiveness. If anybody in here has ever forgiven somebody who has done them completely wrong, who has done great harm to them, put them in great mischief, pain, and you forgave this person, I want you to explain to me how you felt after you forgave that person. And begin to turn those wounds into wisdom. What I mean by that, everybody has wounds. But you learn how to turn those wounds into wisdom by sharing your story, by sharing your experience. Somebody needs to know that, yes, I went through the same thing you're going through, but I made it through. This is what I did. This is how I survived. This is how I made it. This is how I overcame. This is how I was able to withstand. And anybody who's been through anything in life knows that when you look back, you keep saying those same words I said earlier. What did not kill me only made me stronger. It made me stronger mentally. It made me stronger psychologically. It made me stronger. It gave me a sense of power that I never knew that I had. Many of us think power is an outward expression. It's a baseball bat. It's a gun. It's something that we're holding in our hands. It's something that makes us look powerful or appear powerful. But real power comes from within, ladies and gentlemen. What we classify as power is the byproduct. When we talk about this thing called forgiveness, ladies and gentlemen, it's a topic that too many people don't want to talk about because it makes us have to go within. It makes us have to deal with ourselves. And the starting point of forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for the things that have taken place. You start blaming yourself for things that happened. You start saying it was my fault that this happened. If I would have been there, if I could have got there quicker, or maybe if I didn't do this or I didn't do that, or maybe if I did do this or maybe if I did do that, this wouldn't have happened. We put ourselves in so many different predicaments, but it starts with self-forgiveness. When you understand self-forgiveness, you start moving into a place where you realize the power of forgiving oneself. You know, parents, loved ones, aunties, uncles, brothers and sisters, sometimes with your children, with your family, your loved ones, things happened and you blamed yourself. You put yourself in a prison because you couldn't forgive yourself because you always blamed yourself. But you have to give yourself the permission to be set free today, ladies and gentlemen, and look at yourself in the mirror and begin to move into a level of self-forgiveness, forgiving the self. I've got to be able to move into a level of forgiveness because I can't keep operating like this. When you start moving and elevating in the mirror aspect, you start looking at yourself and saying, you know what, I got to be able to forgive myself. I've been blaming myself for things. I've been kind of looking at myself for things, and I have to let go of that because it keeps me stuck in some areas of my life. It keeps me in a place of unsurety. It keeps me in a place of stagnation where I'm stagnant. I'm not able to move forward because I've placed myself in prison. But today I want you to be able to set yourself free, ladies and gentlemen, and forgive yourself. It's the beginning of forgiveness is self-forgiveness, forgiving yourself for situations, for circumstances, for things that you may have been a part of that you have blamed yourself because of the outcome and because maybe people were hurt, maybe the situations, things didn't work out the way they were supposed to. And so now you've impersonated yourself because you felt like it was your fault. But I want you to know life goes on, ladies and gentlemen, and you have to begin to now self-forgive and move into this place of freedom. One of the most harmful things in life is dealing with the pain of what people did to you. They say, Issachar, all of this forgiveness talk, it sounds great. It sounds wonderful. But, man, I took a lot, man. I took a beating. It really hurt me. It almost halfway killed me. It really got me to a place that I never thought I'd be in life. And I'm just kind of getting back on my feet. And I hear you, my friend. I hear you. But I think one of the things we have to learn, ladies and gentlemen, is how to turn that pain into power. We teach here at the Temple of Enlightenment that we are alchemists. We are mental alchemists. How an alchemist can turn lead into gold. We believe that we can transform and begin to turn that pain into power. Turning betrayal into boundaries. Because a lot of us who have been betrayed and we were hurt and we haven't forgiven those people, by putting ourselves in prison, we don't have any contact with anybody. And so what happens is a lot of times we miss great opportunities, we miss great things happening because we have not forgiven that person for betraying us. And we think because we haven't forgiven that person for betraying us, and we've holding a grudge or we hold a resentment against that person, we think that we're doing something to that person when in fact we have imprisoned ourselves. So now we have isolated ourselves to where nobody can connect to us, nobody can come to us because we have now been imprisoned by this resentment and by us not forgiving that person. But I believe that if you forgive this person, you can turn betrayal into boundaries. Because yes, everybody doesn't need to get that close to you, but you can turn that betrayal into boundaries so that now you can connect with people and that you can do certain things. Yeah, betrayal hurts. And it's hard for you to trust because especially when you're still holding on and have not forgiven the person. Many of us are in relationships and our hearts have been broken through people lying on us, cheating on us, using us. And so our hearts have been broken and we haven't forgiven the person. And we have resentment, we have bitterness towards this person. And we have not realized that this person has long gone out of our lives and we're still holding on to the things that they did to us, which in retrospect has imprisoned us. So now we're walking around with this resentment, this bitterness. Our hearts have been broken. And we want to move forward in life, and we want to be able to move forward, but we can't because we have imprisoned ourselves. But I'm hoping today, those of you who are listening to me will come to the notion and say, I forgive that person. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to turn this heartbreak into wisdom so that I can move forward, I can grow, I can elevate, and I can excel and expand in my level of consciousness. Because I want to be able to understand this forgiveness thing, because ladies and gentlemen, forgiveness was going on before we got here. And ladies and gentlemen, forgiveness will continue to be going on once we leave. I think it's a great power to be able to forgive somebody, to truly forgive. It takes power, it takes admiration, it takes a level of commitment, and it takes a great level of self-refinement. I would say to those who they're saying today, hey, Israel, man, they're saying, Issachar, you have given us great messages. I hear what you're saying. this person really hurt me. I can't let this go. And I understand how you feel because of the pain and the commitment that you had to this person and what they meant to you in life. And I want to say to you, I understand that. What I want you to know is that you not forgiving them is not hurting them. It's not doing anything to them, but it is imprisoning you. And in some retrospect, we have to raise our level of consciousness above the situation. Why? So that we can now begin to turn your pain into power. How do you do that? You do that by acknowledging it, by accepting it, by alchemizing it, and then ascending. I'll say it again. The formula for turning your pain into power is this: acknowledge it. Acknowledge the person hurt you. Acknowledge you're in pain. Acknowledge it. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to cover it up. It is what it is. Acknowledge it. After you acknowledge it, accept it. Accept that it's happened. Accept that you're going to not be delusioned, not be confused or ridiculed, but just accept the fact that I acknowledge I'm hurt. I was in pain. This really hurt me, and I accept it. And then the next thing you're going to do is alchemize it. You're going to turn that pain into power. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You're going to rise and ascend. You're no longer going to be imprisoned by your not forgiving, by your bitterness, by your resentment. You're going to ascend. You know, when you start working with this, I think that you ought to be able to start writing, get a good journal. Everybody should have a journal here at the Temple of Enlightenment. We always teach that writing is the first level of manifestation. And when you write things down, you begin to really get a gist of how things go and how they maneuver. Um, and you begin to uh, look at this from a different perspective. But what happens here is this: journaling allows you to release. I believe that journaling is a form of therapy. It's therapeutic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I say to forgive, yes, you're gonna actually probably say the words, "I forgive this person, I let it go," but it's gonna take you apart. It's gonna be a process of you releasing and letting this thing go. It's gonna take a process, and you're going to have to work with it. You're going to have to commit to it. It's going to take a process, but I believe everybody here will be able to withstand and do it. I believe that. I believe that you will be able to go through and really transcend and really get this thing going. Why? Because I want to be able to be free. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest thing in the world is to be free, not to be imprisoned by yourself, from your self-doings, your self-undoings, because of what you didn't forgive or the resentment you have towards somebody. But to be able to be mentally free, psychologically free, to be spiritually free. Why? Because I'm no longer holding grudges or imprisoning myself because of what somebody else did to me. One of the things that we have to look at is that what does forgiveness look like? You know, I hear some of you saying, you know, you keep talking about forgiveness. What does forgiveness really look like? What does it look like? And that can be a very interesting question. for many, because I believe that when you look at the chains of expectation, what are you expecting? And you begin to be so fixated on the outcome. You begin to look at the understanding or wanting to know the outcome. Listen, let me say this to you. When you are elevating a forgiveness, your life is never going to be the same, ladies and gentlemen. And I truly mean that. Forgiveness elevates you to a level of maturity that you would not believe, my friend. Let me tell you why. When you are elevating in forgiveness, don't worry about the outcome. Let me tell you why. Because you don't need their apology. Yes, some of you would say the person that apologized to me, they really did this to me. And so let me ask you a question. If they apologize to you, what happens? Sometimes they apologize to you and you still hold a grudge. You still have resentment. You still have bitterness. So what was the sense of you waiting for the apology? You don't need the apology. You have to learn how to release the outcome. Don't worry about the apology. Sometimes you have to learn how to release people from your life who you know will never change. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that once again, we meet nobody in this life but us. There's somebody in your life that you know is not going to stop doing whatever it is they're doing that's hurting you or that's causing you harm. And so instead of approaching them, instead of reaching out to them, you release them from within you. You forgive them. You cut ties with them from within you. Listen to me. This will change your life. When you release them and let them go from within you, what ends up happening is that they now will begin to be released outwardly. When you begin to release and let them go from within, as within, so without. As within, so without. As you forgive this person and let them go from within and release them, so shall it happen in the physical reality. So you're not connected to the outcome. You're just connected to the point that you know I'm letting this person go. I'm releasing them. I'm not looking for an apology because what they do doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is how I react. They often said this: life is about 10% of what happens and 90% of how you react to what happens. Forgiveness is a one person's job. Yes, forgiveness is a one person job. I don't need a committee to forgive. I don't need to sit down and have a board meeting. I don't need to sit down and have a seance. Forgiveness is a one person job. Some of you may be on the line today. And what I mean by the line, you're on the borderline of really wanting to forgive this person, but you're afraid or you're scared or this person really hurt you or really did harm to you. So you have it in your psyche and in your mind that if I forgive this person, they get away. they are less scot-free, it means that I don't care about what happened. It means that they're free in everything they did. No, 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 no. When you forgive them, you set yourself free. I want you to get in the picture of your mind that you are imprisonating yourself by not forgiving this person. And I know that many of you may not be able to see that, but you have done so by not doing that. And so we want to be able to set you free today so that you can have the freedom of letting those burdens fall off of you, and so that you don't have to carry that anymore. Some of you are looking for closure, and you're saying, I can't believe this person never came back and said, I'm sorry. They never said, you know what, I made a mistake. I know I shouldn't have done what I've done. I know I've hurt you greatly. What I've done was, wrong. I want to make it right. I just can't believe they never came back. We never got closure out of this situation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you this as well. Sometimes in life, you have to close the door. Sometimes you got to close the door yourself, ladies and gentlemen. You are not going to get the closure that you think should come. Sometimes you're the one that will do the closure. You would have to close that door yourself. And that's okay. Because guess what? By closing that door, it reiterates freedom. It lets me know that I'm in control of my emotions, that I'm in control of my mind and my spirituality and my psyche, and that I'm not allowing anything or anybody to have control over me. But sometimes when you have to close the door yourself, ladies and gentlemen, many of us are looking for closure. We're looking for some kind of apology or some kind of something to come back forward. No, learn how to close the door yourself. I know it's tight, but it's right. You got to learn how to close the door yourself. And in doing that, some of you are sitting down and be saying, the closure that never came. Yeah, it never came. But you got to close the door yourself and move on. Because while you're waiting for that closure, you're imprisoning yourself. Once again, waiting for closure means that I'm sitting here waiting. And by me waiting, I have imprisonated myself. I have put myself in an invisible prison cell, and I'm waiting for closure. And as long as I'm waiting for this closure, I'm not able to excel. I'm not able to move on. I'm not able to go in life. I'm holding on to this thing, and I'm stagnant. I'm stuck. But as soon as I close it myself, I'm able to regain my power, regain everything about me, and make a stand and move into freedom. I believe that there's a frequency of freedom. I believe that there's a frequency of forgiveness. I believe that forgiveness raises your magnetic field. I believe that, man. Listen, in the comments, anybody who's ever forgiven somebody, and you don't have to tell us everything that happened, but tell us how you felt after you forgave that person. You can write it in the chat. When you forgave somebody that really hurt you, somebody that really did something to you, you got to forgive them. And when you forgave them, how did it feel? Because I know it raised your magnetic field. Once you move into a level of the frequency of forgiveness, you start attracting new realities because of you releasing and letting go. See, life is about cycles. And we have to learn that the cycles are coming in, but there's also cycles of going out. And you have to learn how to release and let go so that you can receive the good things and receive things that are coming into your life, but learn how to release and let go of things and don't hold on to things. You know how many of us are holding on to baggage? We're holding on to situations and circumstances. You know what? Let me tell you what's happening too, ladies and gentlemen. Some of us are holding on to, or some of us are imprisoning ourselves, right? Listen to this, for something that somebody else did to somebody else, not us. So you know somebody that did something wrong to somebody else, and you're not forgiving that person. The person never did anything to you, never hurt you, never harmed you, but they harmed somebody you know. It could be a loved one, could be anybody. And so you're holding on and putting yourself imprisoned yourself for somebody else who the person did to them, not you. And so you've imprisonated yourself for something that somebody did to somebody else, and it didn't even affect you at all. We have to move into a place, ladies and gentlemen, of freedom, forgiveness. You'll be amazed at how the things in life will begin to uh, flow into your life with a forgiving heart. You know, they say that the heart is the only instrument in the body that continues to work while it's broken. But when you have a forgiving heart, that forgiving heart will bring with it many blessings, ladies and gentlemen. They did a study on forgiveness and how it heals you, how forgiving will heal you. Now, I told you, a lot of you are holding on to this bitterness, and it's causing great disease in your body, and it's causing dis-ease, and a lot of you have become sick and so forward. But when you allow yourself to forgive, you move into a level of healing. Listen to me, hear me good, ladies and gentlemen. You move into a place of healing. And when you understand that your body will begin to heal in a special way, it takes your life to the next level. You know, I know people right now who I know haven't talked to their own mother in 10, 15 years. They're holding the grudge. They're holding the bitterness and the resentment. Mothers and daughters not talking. Sons and fathers not talking. I was once talking to an individual, and that's one of the reasons I chose one, because this secret that we're talking about today is in the book. I was talking to a young lady, and she was telling me that she had all of this back pain, and she was dealing with back pain, and you know, the back pain was excruciating. You know, it was, she couldn't sit down long, she couldn't stand up long. It was, you know, she would go to the doctors and get the MRIs, and you know, and you know, and take a look at all of this stuff and try to figure out what's wrong. And no matter what they did, her back just kept hurting her. And she, you know, I asked her, you know, when we were talking, I always want to figure out what's going on, what's dealing with, because I believe that anything that happens internally, there's something wrong there. So anytime the body is giving you signals with pain and discomfort, it's a direct indication to me that something could be wrong. So I reached out and I began to talk to her and say, well, you know what, tell me about How's your relationship with your family? How's the relationship with your mother and your father? She says, I hadn't talked to my father for 20 years. You know, um, some things happened. I disagreed with how he handled the situation. I disagreed with how he treated me and different things that happened in that particular event. And we haven't spoken to each other or seen each other in 20 years. I said, wow. I said, what, you know, I think that you need to reach out to him. I think you need to talk to him. I think you need to sit down and begin. And I said to her, I said, even if you don't see him or talk to him, you got to forgive him. Because I believe that you holding on to this grudge, this bitterness, and this resentment is going to cause you more harm than him. She said, you're right, but, you know, I'm just not ready yet. I happened to speak to her. Like I said, we just spoke again. She said, Issachar, you're not going to believe this. She said, I listened to what you said. It took me a little time, but I finally got it together, and I forgave him. She said, do you know, right when I forgave him, that back pain left my back? She says, I couldn't believe it, that as soon as I forgave my father, that excruciating back pain that I had been dealing with all this time, and I told her, when you forgive, your body heals. Your body goes back to its place. There's power in forgiveness. There's power in forgiveness. And so I hope that somebody's listening to me today, even if it's you and you don't need to forgive anybody, if you know somebody that needs to forgive somebody, let them hear this. Because I believe that everybody needs to be walking in freedom. Some of you will say, forgiveness. What if they never say sorry? I believe that you have to come to a place where you got to set yourself free. You got to set yourself free. You know, thinking about somebody maybe listening right now, you may have a loved one, a child, somebody who may have been murdered, somebody may have been killed, and the person that did it is in prison. And you may be saying to yourself, I can never forgive them. And so I would ask you, the person is in prison for however many years, for life, or whatever years they're in. Why would you put yourself in prison too? Why would you put yourself in prison? Why not set yourself free? Live the life you were created to live. Enjoy life to the fullest. And begin to really move into that level of into that element. When you get to a higher level of forgiveness, you learn how to extend grace without condoning harm. Extending grace without condoning harm. You move into a level of spiritual maturity. Spiritual maturity says this: spiritual maturity will separate the person from the act. It will separate the person from the act. Sometimes you got to ask yourself the question, who am I after I forgive? After I forgive, who am I? How do I see myself? What happens? You reclaim your power, your joy, your voice. The rewards of release are peace, power, and presence. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, once you have moved into the level of forgiveness, you move into the rewards of the release. Once you release and let it go, you now have obtained peace, power, and your presence back. You're declaring your emotional stability. You begin to say stuff to yourself like, I forgive myself for holding on to what was never mine to carry. I release the past and reclaim my peace. I no longer punish myself with the memory of old wounds. I forgive not because they deserve it, but because I do. Let me say that again. I forgive not because they deserve it, but because I do. My freedom matters more than my ego. I forgive to breathe deeper, live louder, and love fuller. Forgiveness is the key. I am the lock. Freedom is the door. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this one more time. Forgiveness is the key. I am the lock. Freedom is the door. Listen, I hope somebody really got something out of this today. I'm hoping that all of you really can take this and move into a level of forgiveness so that you can now remove yourself from this invisible jail cell, this invisible prison cell that you have placed yourself in, and begin to move into freedom. We're working on our series, 100 Secrets to Mastering the Game of Life. You can't master the game of life until you've learned how to forgive, ladies and gentlemen. And I want us to be able to work with this and operate in this. Yes, if you haven't done so, go ahead and click the link and get the book from Amazon. We put this out in 2011. It's doing very well. It seems to be picking back up again. And so that's why I'm putting out these teachings on the 100 secrets to mastering the game of life. And so I want you to begin to understand this and move into this. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, your life is the most important thing that there is. Forgiveness is a one person's job. And if that's in fact true, then I beckon you, I summoned you to come to the carpet and begin to step into your freedom in life and begin to forgive and let go and release. Those of you that have been part of the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center, we want to thank you for your consistency. We want to thank you for your time, your wisdom, that you're taking out of the time to listen to our teachings every week. We ask that you help us share it and get the word out. Click on the link, share this out. I know a few people that need to hear this about forgiveness, and I'm going to be sharing it out myself as well. I also want those of you that want to be a blessing to us, that want to help us out. I also want those of you that want to be helpful in us expanding and growing our commitment. Hit the like button, and also you can donate. There's 4 ways that you can donate to our organization and to our ministry. The first way is going to be Cash App, TOESC, Cash App. That's going to be $TOESC, $TOESC. The other way that you can give is going to be Zelle and PayPal. Zelle and PayPal are going to be our email address, which is info, INFO, at TOESC.org. Once again, that's INFO at TOESC.org. Those are the 2 ways you can give, either through PayPal or Zelle. And then also we have Venmo. Venmo is another way that you can give, which is going to be Issachar, ISSACHARBEY. That's ISSACHARBEY at gmail.com. And those are the 4 ways that you can give. If you look in the bottom description, we also have our mailing list. If you guys want to send anything in the mail, you can send it there. Also, if you want to make out any checks or money orders, you can make them out to the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. We also want to thank all of you for your commitment, for your being with us every week. Once again, if this is your first time, please let us know what city, what state, what country you're listening from. I hope that this message finds the people that need to hear it. And if you're listening to me, reach out to me. Let me know how you feel about this message. Let me know about your forgiveness journey and what you've been going through. That's what we're here for at the Temple of Enlightenment. I want to let you know this one thing. I love you. I want to let you know this one thing. Your destiny is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.